welcome back to my channel. My name is Nurse Usari. If you're here for the first time, welcome. Please click on the subscribe button to join the family. And if you've been here before, you're coming back again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming back to watch my content. So last week I was supposed to drop a video to complete my lecture on research, but I was quite ill last week, so I could not do that. I really apologize for that. However, before the end of the week, I'm going to drop a video that is going to complete that lecture on research. But for today, I got a few questions from some of my friends and some of my students, and they were asking on how to study better as a nursing student and how to answer questions in the exam hall. So I decided to make a video about it so that everyone on my channel could watch and learn from it. We all know nursing department is one of those departments that actually requires a lot of commitment for you to survive or continue or move from one level to another. You have to be very serious, you require a certain CGPA or a lot of things just to be in the department. So nursing is one of the departments where you have to be very, very committed, in short. And studying better as a nursing student, most times I say that you cannot study the way people in other departments will do. Not because other departments are easier or anything, but it's just that the nature of the department, it's so quite different from most departments in school. One of my lecturers would say nursing is a carry-over course. Not carry-over in a bad sense anyway, but for the fact that you could be in 100 level or in year 1 and learn something and you're not asked that year, but that doesn't mean when you're in year 3 or you're in 300 level or 500 level, they may decide to bring back that question and ask. And when you ask them that this work we weren't taught this semester, we were taught 2 or 3 years ago, you're gonna hear, well, you're supposed to know with your nursing student. So that is the way, you have to continuously read what you were taught maybe a year ago or 2 years ago or a semester ago, because that is the way the department is. So on how to study, the first thing I would say is that create a timetable for yourself. Be realistic. Don't create a timetable that you're not going to follow. If you know you can't read more than an hour at a stretch or an hour and 30 minutes at a stretch, don't create a timetable that would make you read for 6 hours, because it's going to be a waste of time and you're not going to follow it. What I advise is get a timetable. If you feel reading in the morning is best for you, read in the morning. The fact that Bola reads at midnight does not mean that Kemi would read at midnight and still assimilate. Personally, I don't read at midnight because I don't really like it. It's not comfortable for me. I prefer reading either in the morning or in the afternoon. That is how it works with me. Majority of my friends read in the midnight, and when they're reading, I sleep. Not because I am lazy, but because it just doesn't work for me, but it works for them. So create a timetable that is going to work for you. Don't make it outside your capacity, in short. Another thing is that do what works for you. If being in class to listen to the lecture is what works for you, do not miss classes. There are some people that even if they miss classes, once they pick up the book and they read, they still understand. Do not compare yourself with those students. If going to class is your only way of assimilating easily, don't miss classes. Do what works for you. Don't compare. Don't compete. Don't make someone, how do I put it, don't compare, don't compete, don't make someone your role model when you know that what works for this person doesn't work for me. It goes in line with what I said about the timetable earlier. Another thing is that get textbooks that are easy to understand. Let me say that again. Get textbooks that are easy to understand. If you cannot understand Brunas and Sudas, but you can understand synopsis, stick with synopsis. The fact that A is carrying that big textbook, she's reading it and she can understand it, doesn't mean that you may understand it as well. If synopsis works for you and you're reading it and you still pass with synopsis, why not stick with that? Why must you get a textbook that you do not even understand? There are some textbooks that are written by Nigerian authors. Personally, I prefer those textbooks because they are easier to understand for me. I can easily read them compared to some textbooks that were written in UK or USA, where I have to get a dictionary with me just to assimilate, which is actually very, very stressful. I don't do that unless there is no other choice. There's no way I can get that topic except from that textbook. Another thing is, do not rely on everything you see on the internet. Do not rely on everything you see on the internet, because whoever is going to mark your script is not going to mark based on what is on Wikipedia. The person is not going to draw up the marking scheme from Wikipedia. They're going to draw up your marking scheme from either the textbooks they used to teach you or whatever. They're going to use things that are around from the textbooks, what you've been taught in class, not what is on Wikipedia. No lecturer will draw up their marking scheme from Wikipedia. So don't pick up everything you see on the internet. Rely majorly on your textbooks. Then when reading, if you want to memorize things, use acronyms or mnemonics. Honestly, they work a lot. Use acronyms or mnemonics. If you're a rapper and you're a nursing student, it will really work for you, because you can easily make the things you want to memorize, you can easily make it into a song, or you can make it into a rap, and it works well for almost everyone that I know that does that, because you can easily remember it, you can sing it in your head, just like your nursery rhymes. That's why most of our nursery rhymes still stick to our head, because we sang them, like all this pussycat. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make a joke about it, but when you use acronyms and mnemonics, they tend to stick better. So when we come to the section of how to answer questions in exam hall, there is something I always advise students. If you're answering question in an exam hall, always highlight. Don't rush at questions. Don't just attack the question immediately you read it. If you're reading a question, relax. Try to think, okay, what does this lecturer want me to write? Try to highlight the points you want to write, so that in the middle of writing, you don't forget one thing, and it will help you arrange your points when you're writing. Take for example, if you're writing about the anatomy of an organ, start with the definition, go to the location, then you talk about the organs associated with it, then you talk about the description of the organ, possibly the layers, the kind of muscles you have in there. Probably has all these organs that have the outer, middle and inner parts. You pick it one after the other, and when you're done, you talk about the arterial supply, the venous drainage, lymphatic drainage, nerve supply, and all those supply group. So you talk about that one, and at the end you finish it with the function. That way it is well aligned, the examiner can read it well, they can mark it well. Unlike when you put nerve supply first, then you're going to definition, and then you're coming back to describe the organ, it doesn't really follow and it doesn't really make sense. So you have to put down your answers in a way that makes sense. So in a nutshell, what I meant is, do not attack questions. When you read it, digest it, try to highlight whatever it is you want to write before you start writing. You always have a page on the corner of your answer sheet where you can easily jot down a few things that you want to write. It helps both in school exam or council examinations. Don't rush at questions. It could actually make you fail the exam if you rush at it, because at the end of the day, then you get back outside the exam and you start remembering, oh, I could have written this, oh, I could have written that. Whereas if you had actually calmed down, try to highlight whatever it is you want to write, you wouldn't have forgotten that. So I hope everything I've said, little I've said, has helped any student out there on how to study or how to answer questions. So anticipate my video to finish up my research lecture and my video next week. Bye bye guys.